Hello and welcome to the Town of Easton's 2022 Memorial Day ceremony and the first parade since 2019. We're here at Veterans Memorial Park in Easton. With me, I have our two Veteran Service Organization commanders, Commander Teresa Pedico Poole of the American Legion Post 7, and Commander Steve Shaw of the VFW Post 2547. Also in attendance, we have State Senator Walter Timilty, State Senator Mike Brady, State Representative Carol Doherty, Select Board Chair Dottie Fulgenetti, Select Board Vice Chair Craig Barger, Select Board members Mark Lamb, Jamie Stebbins, and Jennifer Stacy, as well as our former Veteran Service Officer, Steve Nolan. Thank you all for being here today. Memorial Day is a day that we set aside each year to honor our fallen servicemen and women that have made the ultimate sacrifice to service to our country. A sacrifice made to preserve our freedom and way of life as we know it. We must also not forget the sacrifice of our Gold Star families, because for them, every day is Memorial Day. They have paid the price of freedom in exchange of the lives of their loved ones. And for them, we can do no greater honor and show no greater respect than to remember them as the heroes that they are, forever memorialized on our street signs and their names forever engraved in our monuments. We will not forget. I'd now like to ask Scout Troop 193 to lead us in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd all please rise and place your hand on your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd now like to invite Pastor John Polk to give the invocation.
Before I lead us in prayer, I'd like to invite us into a moment of silence to remember the 19 precious children and the 2 remarkable teachers at Robb Elementary who were killed last week. Gracious God, we thank you for the freedom you have given to us and for the price that was paid so that we could live free. We remember today the cost of it all, the great sacrifice for freedom. We thank you for the brave men and women who have fought and continue to fight so courageously for our nation. We ask for your covering and blessing over them and their families. We pray that you would be gracious and encircle them with your peace. We pray for your great favor and goodness to be evident in their lives. Please be with all those who wear the uniform, who serve our communities and nation every single day. We ask that you provide your protection, that you would be their guiding force who leads the way, and their rear guard who keeps them safe from behind. We ask that you would draw them to yourself amidst the dangers they face. For you are the truth, you are the way, you are the light. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Polk. Now I'd like to welcome Oliver Ames High School student Mia Reinhardt to sing the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. O'er the ramparts we watch were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
That was outstanding, Mia. Thank you very much. I'd now like to welcome Select Board Member and Air Force veteran Jamie Stebbins to read the Commonwealth of Massachusetts 2022 Memorial Day Proclamation.
Big words, I appreciate that. So, Corey, thank you very much, and I just want to express my debt of gratitude for all those that have fallen for our freedom, because we all know that democracy is not free. So thank you to the family members of all of those who also make that sacrifice. So a proclamation, whereas while the nation was still recovering from the horrors of the Civil War, people in cities and towns across the country gathered to honor those Union and Confederate soldiers who had given their lives celebrating the first Decoration Day. And whereas after World War I, the nation came together again to honor those who had fallen in the service of their country. Renamed Memorial Day, the last Monday in May is when people remember and honor the memory of all the men and women who fought and died in all American wars and conflicts. And whereas throughout our country's history, thousands of Massachusetts citizens have fought in wars and conflicts to defend our safety and way of life. And whereas their legacy of patriotism and dedication to country is an inspiration to all Americans. And whereas it is appropriate that all Massachusetts citizens remember the bravery of those who gave their lives so that their sacrifices serve as a reminder of the cost of our freedom. Now therefore, I, Charles D. Baker, Governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, do hereby proclaim May 30th, 2022 to be Memorial Day, and urge all the citizens of the Commonwealth to take cognizance of this event and participate fittingly in its observance. Given at the Executive Chamber in Boston this first day of May in the year 2022, and of the independence of the United States of America, the 245th.
Thank you, Select Board Member Stebbins. Now I'd like to welcome Miss Ann DeSanto to sing a selection for us.
In the sweet light of the valley, where the sun falls upon the pine, I shall lay down all of my troubles, and I lift up this heart of mine. Take me home, Lord, oh take me home, o'er the hillside and o'er the sea, to the soft grass of the valley, where your grace shall set me free. Through the shadow of the darkness, through the storms that lead me astray, I shall travel forever knowing in your light I'll always stay. Take me home, Lord, oh take me home. Oh, the hillside and o'er the sea, to the soft grass of the valley, where your grace shall set me free. Take me home, Lord, oh take me home. Oh, the hillside and o'er the sea, to the soft grass of the valley, where your grace shall set me free. To the soft grass of the valley, where your grace shall set me free.
That was wonderful, thank you. At this time, I'd like to welcome Mr. Ed Hands to tell us a bit about the history of Easton and Memorial Day.
Welcome. Thank you all for coming today. It's wonderful to be back. Normally, we're down at Easton Center, but our Civil War Memorial is all wrapped up, ready to be moved. But I think it's particularly appropriate that we're here today because with a little bit of historical research, I discovered the very, very first reference to Decoration Day here in Easton was in 1873. When the veterans of the Civil War all gathered at Ripley's Hall, better known today as Bill's House of Pizza, which was at that time the GAR, Grand Army of the Republic Hall. And they decided to honor veterans. Whether this was the very first Decorations Day or maybe the second, we don't know. But early in the morning, a honor guard had gone to all the outlying cemeteries, walking 15 miles to decorate the graves of fallen veterans at all of our almost 30 cemeteries. Around 8 a.m., they formed up right on Main Street to parade to the Catholic cemetery on Canton Street. When they got there, Father Carroll, who was the priest of St. Mary's Church, blessed the veterans' graves, and the Catholic Church choir sang hymns. Sadly, at that time, America was divided by religion rather than politics, and the Catholic contingent in the parade peeled off, and the parade continued to the cemetery at the top of Elm Street. At that point, two bands played. The soldiers were honored again, and the parade came all the way back around, marched the route that we just came down, complaining about how hot it was, and stopped at Ripley's Hall, presumably not for pizza, but for a collation. At that point, they turned around and went to the Easton Cemetery, or Southeastern Cemetery, on 138, the one that town meeting just voted to finish the fencing on. And the reason they went there is that among the other veterans buried was Ansel Bartlett Randall, who was the namesake of the GAR post. When they got there, a poem had been written that had been set to music. And I thought it was worth reading the first paragraph of that, first stanza. It says, strew flowers on the soldier's grave, for he bravely fought and fell, that freedom's flag might ever wave o'er the land we love so well. And willingly he died to save these pleasant homes of ours. So let us deck his lowly grave with wreaths of choicest flowers. Bartlett Randall had been a very reluctant soldier. He had only enlisted in 1862, almost a year after the war had started, after the first wave of patriotic fervor had passed, and a bounty was offered to enlist. But after he enlisted, his perspective changed. He could see the reason for the battle, to unite America and to provide freedom for all. He was so imbued with the patriotic spirit that when his 9-month service was up, he came back here and recruited an entire company of men to go back into the service. We think his dad, Joel Randall, was probably not all that happy with it, because a letter that survives says, "Please don't tell Dad I've enlisted for the duration." And he had. Well, at the Battle of the Wilderness in 1864, he had been severely injured, not wounded, but as with many people who are running from tree to tree in a battle, he tore up his knee, came home on leave, and went back before the knee had actually healed up. There were no doctors to perform a knee operation in those days, and by then, the Union Army had besieged the Confederate Army at Petersburg, Virginia. So it was siege duty. He didn't have to walk around a whole lot, but he never really healed. On April 2nd, 1865, word came down that the Union Army was going to make another attempt to break the siege of Petersburg. If Petersburg fell, Richmond, the capital of the Confederacy, would fall and the war would be over. About 7 o'clock in the morning, despite his injury, Randall led his troops out of the trenches and towards the Confederates. By 11 o'clock, the battle was all over. The Unions had broken free. People had gone to Richmond to tell the Confederate president, Jefferson Davis, that he had to leave the city because it was about to fall. Sadly, by 11 o'clock, Bartlett was in a field hospital dying of a head wound. He was the last Easton boy to die in the war. When news of the end of the war reached Easton by telegraph in April of 1865, we have a description. At the shovel shops, which are right behind us, those are the same buildings we're talking about, just like Ripley's Hall is up the street. Everyone yelled and cheered. Aprons were torn off. Hammers and shovels that happened to be at hand at the moment were thrown in all directions. The engine was shut down. The whistles shrieked and screamed, and for the time being, everybody lost their heads. When the excitement had partially abated, they all stampeded for the church. We gathered around the steps. Brief speeches were made, the flag was run up, and cheers upon cheers were given. That church was on the Rockery site, and today is right around the corner on Mechanic Street. It's still there. There's a continuity after more than 150 years. Sadly, on that very same day, the telegram brought the news that Randall had died. His home is right around the corner. Through those bushes, the very first house you come to is Ansel Bartlett Randall's house. Ironically enough, however, he was buried down in Southeaston, at that Southeastern cemetery, because there was no cemetery directly here in Northeastern. A few years later, that house was moved from its original home at the site of the Unity Church. Unity Church was built, the house was moved here, and Bartlett Randall was brought home and buried at the cemetery behind the church. In other words, buried in the home ground that he played in when he was a young boy. Continuity, I think, is the message here. We can still see, we can still walk through the places that Bartlett Randall passed through. he was someone who was willing to give his life in order to save our country. And there was no doubt about Catholics or Protestants or Democrats or Republicans. He was fighting for America. He was an American. Just as the boys back here who gave their lives in World War II and the boys and girls out here in Vietnam and Korea gave their lives for the country, whether they were Swedish or Portuguese or Italian or old Yankees. Americans all. Now, before I finish up, many of you know that I'm a teacher. And I had the strange opportunity this week of touring fourth graders around the library site. It was a very heart-rending feeling. And you also know the teachers are kind of preachy. So I do want to share with you the fact that I think the country right now is in as much of a crisis as we were back at the time of the Civil War. You're about to hear the famous Gettysburg Address, but I would like to finish up with another little speech from Abraham Lincoln. This is what Lincoln said. He said, "Fellow citizens, we cannot escape history. We will be remembered in spite of ourselves. No personal significance or insignificance can spare one another of us. The fiery trial through which we pass will light us down in honor or dishonor to the latest generation. We must disenthrall ourselves, and then we shall save our country." Disenthrall is a magic word. What holds us spellbound today? I think it's the spell of partisanship. People are on one side or the other. We're not thinking like Bartlett Randall or the men back here or the men and women out here. We're not thinking as Americans. Let's disenthrall ourselves, honor these people by making our country as great as we believe it to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hands. Now I'd like to welcome Ross Moscato to recite the Gettysburg Address.
I had to say hello to George Wannett. You'll hear more about him later, but he's one of the most remarkable men I've ever met, and it was my privilege, introduced through Jiggs Nolan, to be able to sit with Mr. Wannett and talk with him for many hours. The Gettysburg Address, 10 sentences, 272 words, 3 paragraphs. We figure that Lincoln probably took about 2 minutes and 30 seconds to recite it. It's among the most beautiful and poetic statements ever delivered on American soil. It does in many ways celebrate a victory, a military victory, but it's not martial in spirit. It is a declaration and a description and a prescription for America to reconvene our united purpose. These are the words that our President Abraham Lincoln delivered at the dedication of the Soldiers' National Cemetery at Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, the 19th of November, 1863. 77 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this, but in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men living and dead who struggled here have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us the living, rather, to be here dedicated to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, and that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. Thank you.
Thank you, Ross. I now have the honor and privilege to introduce this year's parade marshal, Captain George K. Wannett, U.S. Army. George Wannett was born in 1945 in Fall River, Massachusetts. He was commissioned a second lieutenant in the U.S. Army through the Army ROTC program at Norwich University in Northfield, Vermont, on January 30th, 1969, followed by the Armor Officer Basic Course at Fort Knox, Kentucky from February to April 1969. His first assignment was as an Assistant Executive Officer, and instructor with the Armor School at Fort Knox from April 1969 to April 1970. And then as an instructor with the CBR School at Camp Drum, New York, from April to September 1970. Lieutenant Wannett then returned to the Armor School at Fort Knox, where he served as an executive officer from October 1970 to April 1971, followed by the Military Assistance Training Advisor course at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, from April to May 71. He served as an advisor in South Vietnam from July 1971 until he was captured and taken prisoner of war after the Battle of Loc Ninh on May 4th, 1972. Having evaded the enemy for nearly a month after the battle, after spending 285 days in captivity in Cambodia, Captain Wannett was released during Operation Homecoming on February 12, 1973. He was briefly hospitalized to recover from his injuries at Valley Forge General Hospital in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania, and was medically retired from the Army on June 19, 1973. He also received Combat Infantry Badge, Bronze Star Medal with 1st Oak Leaf Cluster, Purple Heart with 1st Oak Leaf Cluster, and the Distinguished Service Cross, the second highest award for extraordinary heroism in combat. His Distinguished Service Cross citation reads, Captain George K. Wannett, Jr., Armor, distinguished himself by conspicuous gallantry and the intrepidity at the repeated risk of his life from 5 to 8 April 1972, while serving as Acting District Senior Advisor, Loc Ninh, Republic of Vietnam. On the morning of 5 April 1972, the 5th Viet Cong Division launched a massive ground attack against Loc Ninh. The attack was supported by artillery and tanks. Captain Wannett skillfully directed tactical airstrikes and helicopter gunships in support of Loc Ninh district forces. During the battle, Captain Wannett fought magnificently. Time and again, he exposed himself to enemy direct fire on top of his own position to drive off the attacking enemy. Recognizing that command and control was faltering, Captain Wannett repeatedly endangered himself, withering enemy fire while moving from bunker to bunker to rally and command friendly forces. The combination of Captain Wannett's personal example and professional skill, coupled with available firepower, kept the numerically superior enemy at bay for more than 2 days. Despite the valiant efforts of the defenders, the city of Loc Ninh was completely overrun by the enemy on 7 April 1972. But Captain Wannett, through his courageous actions, extracted a horrendous price from the enemy for their tactical accomplishment. Captain Wannett's conspicuous gallantry in action was in keeping with the highest traditions of the United States Army and reflects great credit upon him and the United States Army. Captain Wannett, we'd be honored if you would come up and share a few words with us.
So, you know, I was a soldier, you know that much so far. Um, a lot of people did a lot of amazing things in battle. Somebody happened to see what I did, so they put me in for a medal. A lot of times, nobody sees what somebody did, so that goes no place. Many people get killed in it. It's just, war is what you know it is. It's terrible. But in spite of all that, I realize that I've been given an honor here today to say out loud what I feel about all the men and women who've fallen. And although I was an advisor and I worked with a small unit, I had a 12-man team. Everybody bleeds red. Everybody that dies, their screams are the same. So, and I'm an American. As you are. So on Memorial Day, I looked it up. And it says, we honor the men and women who died while serving our country. And that's, I think it's really simple. And that's what I believe it is. I mean, I have my life. I'm alive. And those of you who went to Vietnam or other wars, you're alive. But our brothers aren't. So we're the lucky ones. It doesn't mean that life is great. I don't think my life is so super duper. A lot of people don't. So what? I know that every night I say, Lord, I thank you for my life and my freedom. And I can taste that. I really, really, really mean it. It is, after being locked up in a cage and chained up, I really know what freedom is. It's taken away from you when you can't, you can imagine it. Your freedom is taken away from you, and that's why I thank the Lord every night for it. And I thank the Lord for my life. I've had to go to Arlington, and I have walked behind 2 caissons for 2 of my friends. Caisson is the wagon that carries the hearse. It's like a hearse. Carries the, what do you call the box the body's in? Casket. Carries the casket. Arlington is really a big place. I mean, it's huge. So you follow it all the way down, and the closer you get to where the gravesite is, the deeper your mind gets to what is really going on. And it's a heavy trip. There's more soldiers there that are standing at attention, and you go by them, and the soldiers are all really sharp, and the caisson stops. It's really moving. I don't want to do that again. I just got one more thing to say about that, though. I still can't, and I don't want to go to the wall. I just, I've got friends here that have offered to take me there, and I know I can't handle that. So, I have one thing that that I know I have some insight into. And that is the least we can do is honor our fallen and just think about what it is, what it must be like for the mothers and the fathers and the wives and the sisters and the boyfriends and uncles. I mean, they suffer greatly. Their people are never coming home. They went to fight. Some of them, whether they wanted to or not, but they went. Maybe some Gold Star mothers are here now. I don't know. But I have a small insight into it because I learned this from my parents. The whole time I was in Cambodia, in a camp, POW camp, I was listed as MIA, it's missing in action. So my parents had no idea, and neither did my wife, all of my 6 sisters and 1 brother. Nobody knew if I was alive. And it took a toll on them. When I finally did get home, I almost didn't recognize them. The lines, the worry. So it's a horrible thing what it does to people. So the only thing I can think we can do is, we say we can pay tribute to the fallen. I think that we gotta just teach our children. Crosby, Stills, and Nash, maybe Young, they had a song, Teach Your Children. It's gotta come from someplace. There's a whole generation of people now that could care less. They don't care about that flag. They don't care about it at all. So I don't know what you do with them. But when I went to Vietnam, it said U.S. Army. I'm not sure I would crawl on my belly and fight for them anymore. I don't know about that. That doesn't sound very American. But I think all I know is we have to teach our children. Waylon Jennings has a really good song. It's called America. Pull that up and listen to it. America, Waylon Jennings. If you can get through that, we're Americans. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Wannett. It's truly a privilege to hear you speak and hear your thoughts. I just want everyone to take a moment just to realize what a miracle it is that this gentleman is here with us today, and that he's here to share his experience, because as he told you, he's known a lot of other men that don't have that privilege to come here and share their experience. So I just want everyone to take that in for a moment. Captain Wannett, I'd like to present you with a special gift. This was made from reclaimed wood here in Easton, and we'd like you to have it. So if you could, come on up. All right. Next, I'd like to welcome our American Legion Post 7 Commander, Teresa Padico-Poole.
paying tribute to veterans of all wars. Again, our nation has assembled to honor its Heroes' Day. 1,000 battles of land and air echo the glory of their valiant deeds. Under the quiet sod of the morning waves, their bodies sleep in peace. But in destinies of veterans, their souls go marching on. Because of them, our lives are free. Because of them, our nation lives. When we recall the things they did, the hero hosts seem mighty in our midst. When peril threatened and, I'm sorry, I'm having trouble reading. When peril threatened and their country called, with that driving self-sacrifice, they left paths of peace to spring to arms, to make their breasts a barricade against the nation's foes. No sorrow for the loved ones left behind could dim the purpose in their souls. No weariness of march and watch could keep them from their heart's desire. No honor of the field or sea or air could beat their courage down. They fought for us, they fell, now with one accord. In deepest reverence we do them honor. Let us not remember them in anguish. They would not wish our pity. For their sakes also, let us not forget the loved ones left behind. Our tears of words of sympathy cannot bring back the comfort of those loving hands or the music of those voices stilled. Only the solemn pride of having given more than all the rest is theirs who live to weep. But all the world, because of what they have, is debtor to them. Friends, comrades, let us pledge ourselves anew to patriotic service. Let us make ourselves the friend and family of those who will not see their own again in mortal flesh. Let us grasp with the fearless hands the flag so nobly borne before, and like those others, planted always on the battlements of righteousness. All who stand with us today, will you not consecrate yourselves with us to emulate their sacred service, that those who rest in heroes' graves may not have died in vain? And I would like to give you the statistics of all the veterans here in Easton who have lost their lives. 47 veterans from the Civil War were lost. 8 veterans from World War I. 14 veterans from World War II. 1 veteran from the Korean War. 3 veterans from the Vietnam War, and 7 veterans in service to their country. Let us not stand now with bowed heads in solemn memory of our heroic dead. We could bow our heads for a few moments, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Commander. I'd now like to ask that Select Board Chair Dottie Fulgenetti lay the wreath on the monument.
In deepest gratitude, with grateful hearts, let us join our voices as we sing. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans, wide with gold. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet
Outstanding. Next, I'd like to ask our VFW Commander Steve Shaw to read In Flanders Field.
Sometimes I repeat myself, so I'll stop by repeating myself again today. Easton, what a wonderful place to live. Are we in agreement with that? Look around what we're doing today for our veterans and all. Let me start with, I have two things to read actually. So I'm going to start with Flanders Field because I have a connection, or Easton has a connection to it, that I'm going to point out afterwards. In Flanders Field, the poppies blow between the crosses row on row. They mark our place. And in the sky, the larks still bravely singing, fly scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago, we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow. Loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders Field. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you, from falling hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep through poppies grow in Flanders Field. I read that because I was doing going through junk at the VFW, and we had some books there, and we had this old Bible there, and the Bible was given to us in 1932. It was dedicated to us by a pastor here in Easton, who had served in the British Army for 4 years over in Flanders Field. And I'm going to read his dedication that was with the Bible to us. Having tasted the mercilessness of war for over 4 years in the infantry of the British Army, from 1914 to 1918, I can more deeply enter into the joys and the sorrows of those veterans of foreign wars of the United States of America, who, with those who have made the supreme sacrifice, have forever established the freedom of this great nation, writing on its pages the glorious history of a noble past and guaranteeing a still greater glory in the ages yet to come. In so many happy ways, this gift of the Bible to the veterans of foreign wars in Easton post-2547, I dedicate it to the tender memory of an unknown boy whom it was my sad duty to administer to his last moments on the fields of Flanders. And in those hands, as I found him, was a soldier's testament open at the 21st chapter of the book of Revelations, marked the 7th verse. And that verse reads, "He hath overcome shall inherit these things, and I will be his God, and he shall be my son." That was given to us in 1932 from the evangelical church down the street here. Telephone number was 336, maybe Tuck knew him, I don't know. That's, That's a small number, and Tuck's been around a long time. But when I ran across this, I just found it interesting that we had a connection, an odd connection, or abstract connection to Flanders Field. And this pastor dedicated this beautiful Bible. It's too bad it's so old. You got to be very gentle with it. But I just wanted to pass that on to you. I also want to pass on to you that the veterans are veterans of foreign wars, but their families are veterans in their own right, in their own way. Everybody serves. When your loved ones go away, kind of like was mentioned, everybody suffers. All your loved ones suffer. And Easton's VFW is Easton's VFW. It's your VFW. You're all welcome at any time to stop by. And even after today's events, I have refreshments and a light meal there for anybody who wants to stop by. I've laid out a bunch of pictures that we have, because we've been there almost 90 years. And a lot of we don't know who they are. So maybe it's somebody's great-grandfather, or so maybe you can recognize. So if you come by, you'll see the pictures there, and you can scribble their name on a piece of paper so we know who it is, because we have lots of pictures there that we'd like to know who they are anyways. So you're all welcome to come back after the festivities today and enjoy yourselves. Thank you very much.
No, I can't wing it. Thank you, Commander Shaw. Next, I'd like to welcome some of our representatives on the state level. Please welcome Senator Walter Timilty.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to thank our veterans, each and every one of our veterans who's with us today. You have protected us with your service, and today each and every one of you honor us with your presence today, so thank you. Thank you very much, and it's my honor, Corey. Thank you very much to our commanders, of course, Chair Fulgenetti, Mark Lamb, Craig Bodger, Jen Stacy, Jamie Stebbins, Select Board members one and all. It's an honor to be with you here today with, of course, Representative Doherty and Senator Mike Brady, as we pay tribute to the men and women who have so courageously made the ultimate sacrifice, giving their lives in defense of our nation's freedom. Throughout the illustrious history of the United States Armed Forces, more than 1.1 million men and women have made the ultimate sacrifice defending our great nation. As such, these numbers should truly humble us, as they signify individuals who were brothers, sisters, husbands, mothers, cousins, and friends, and of course daughters. Today, Memorial Day, is our opportunity to reflect, to remember, and to say thank you. Specifically, we are here today to commemorate the incredible legacy that our fallen heroes have left behind, and of course our fallen heroines. Although they are no longer with us today, the freedoms that these men and women have bravely fought to protect are still the very same freedoms and privileges that we as Americans enjoy today. For instance, the soldiers, sailors, airmen and airwomen, Coast Guardsmen, Coast Guardswomen, National Guard troops, and Marines who without uncertainty have placed their lives on the line for each and every one of us, nobly embodying the values of service, sacrifice, and selflessness. As we pay our respects here this afternoon, we vow to always remember the fearless actions and the virtuous character of our men and women in uniform who were killed in action, and some of whom who are today, who so nobly served us, who stand beside us, behind us, and in front of us. We thank you. Moreover, it is our responsibility as citizens of our great nation to remember our brave fallen patriots. Whether our brave fallen patriots perished on foreign lands in the midst of a battle, or if they succumbed while at home after their missions had long been completed due to the unseen wounds of war. To this end, we will continue to tell our courageous veteran stories, our fallen heroes and heroine stories. We will continue to honor their memory, for these men and women deserve our utmost respect and gratitude. This Memorial Day, we also pause to offer our condolences to our Gold Star families who have lost a loved one in military service. While we can never erase the pain caused by the great loss that our Gold Gold Star families have sustained. We will always support our Gold Star families, particularly in this great town of Easton, by remembering and honoring the ultimate sacrifice of your loved ones. As our beloved late President John F. Kennedy once stated, the cost of freedom is always high, but Americans have always paid it. And one path we shall never choose, and that is the path of surrender, submission. By gathering here this Memorial Day, with all the wonderful citizens of this great town, our police, our fire, our students, our scouts, and of course, most importantly, our veterans, we have not, nor will we ever fail to remember the price that so many great Americans have paid for us to remain the land of the free and the home of the brave. In short, we remain forever indebted to our fallen heroines and heroes. As such, heroes and heroines never die. They live on in our hearts and our minds. May God bless their memory, and may God continue to bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Timilty. Could we please hear from Senator Brady?
Thank you, and I know I'm here between the coalition at the VFW with good food and whatnot, so I'm going to try my best to be brief, but I've been honored to be your senator for the past several years, and with redistricting, Senator Timilty is going to be representing, with God willing, his re-election, the rest of East, but I've been honored to be a representative here in the state Senate, following some great leaders before me, Thomas Kennedy, and Bobby Creed and Anna Buckley. So I'm just honored to be your senator, and I'm honored to be amongst such distinguished guests, all of our elected officials, but most importantly our veterans, because freedom is not free. And thank God to all of those who gave their lives so we can assemble in a free manner like today. And I'm so grateful to be here amongst every one of us to represent the city, the town of Easton and the other towns that I represent. But thank you to our veterans. I serve on the Veterans Committee, and we can never do enough for our veterans. We passed the Welcome Home Bill, the Valor Act 1 and 2, and we have more legislation to support our veterans, and I'm grateful. If we can be of any help to any of you, please don't hesitate to contact us. And to our children, I'm thankful that the young people are here today, because as was mentioned earlier, we have to teach our children. There's a song by Crosby, Stills and Nash. We have to teach our children so they don't forget what our forefathers went to and fought and died for our country, so we can assemble in a free assembly like today. So God bless you all. God bless the town of Easton. God bless America.
Thank you, Senator Brady. I'd now like to welcome State Rep Carol Doherty.
Thank you, my good friend, Senator Timilty, for making it easy for me to get off that seat. It is always a pleasure for me to come to Easton, to join my colleagues in government on this day, to join our most esteemed veterans, and I'm humbled to be in the company of Captain Warner in the face of such bravery in our behalf. On Memorial Day, we gather, as you well know, to pay tribute to our veterans and to those who have fought and come home, and for those who gave the utmost to preserve our freedom, and to those whom we will never, ever forget. Today, we honor all of our fallen heroes. Memorial Day presents the opportunity for Americans to recognize and thank our veterans and their families for their service and sacrifice during all of America's wars. Fallujah to the Philippines, Quezon and Kandahar, Beirut and Grenada. Today we honor American heroes from the American Revolution through the global war on terror and every battle in between. What truly matters is not where those battles took place, but the hearts of these men and women who fought and continue to do so to preserve our freedom. It is this devotion to America that led them to put themselves in harm's way and to sacrifice their lives for the country that we all love. It is our solemn duty to honor many generations of warriors extending to them the nation's long overdue gratitude before our opportunity to do that vanishes. We will be forever indebted to the brave men and women who put their lives on the line to defend our freedom. As we remember these wars, it would be remiss of me to not make mention of the thousands of women who took part. From the battlefields of the American Revolution to the deserts of Kuwait, women have been serving in the military in one form or another for more than 200 years. They have had to overcome decades of obstacles to get them to where they are today, serving in greater numbers, in combat roles, and in leadership positions all around the world. In closing, I'd like to share a story with you, as I enjoy sharing stories. Located on Main Street in downtown Taunton is a storefront called Homes for Our Troops, which occupies a wide storefront. And while I've passed this storefront countless times, my only acquaintance with Homes for Our Troops heretofore was to be a judge about Christmas lights in the windows along our main street. So sometime during the pandemic, I decided to call and ask if I might visit and learn more about what that means, Homes for Our Troops. I was amazed at what I found. Homes for Our Troops is a publicly funded nonprofit organization that builds and donates especially adapted custom homes nationwide for severely injured post-9/11 veterans to enable them to rebuild their lives. Most of these veterans have sustained very traumatic injuries, as you well know, including multiple limb amputations, paralysis, severely traumatic brain injury. These homes adapt to their needs, restore some of their freedom and independence our veterans sacrificed while defending our country, and enable them to focus on their family, recovery, and rebuilding their lives. Since its inception in 2004, Homes for Our Troops has built more than 300 specially adapted custom homes nationwide, the most recent just here in Mattapoisett. A mom of a severely injured vet wrote, and I quote, "My son was injured in Iraq in 2006. He spent 2 years recovering and was ready to leave the hospital. He has an above-the-knee amputation on the left side and nerve damage to his arm on the right. And finding an apartment that would accommodate his need was a daunting task. Homes for Our Troops built him a home." And she goes on, "My son now has his independence once again. He is now able to take care of himself and achieve the independence that his injury threatened to take away. I'm grateful and thankful for Homes for Our Troops for giving my son back his life. God bless you, Homes for Our Troops, and may you continue to build until no more are needed." This is the mother of Sergeant Kenny Lyon, U.S. Marines, injured 5/1/2006. I believe that what we do to extend our nation's thanks to our veterans comes in countless ways. Saluting the flag, walking in a parade, contributing to a worthy cause, volunteering to help, just saying thank you. By so doing, we tell these men and women they earned it. They made a difference in our lives and in the lives of our children. Reach out to a vet. It'll make a huge difference in their lives. And to the veterans standing with us today, I want you to know just how much we appreciate you and your service to our nation. I want you to know that you have earned the nation's gratitude. Thank you. God bless you, and God bless these United States.
Thank you, Rep. Doherty. And for our last speaker, I'd like to call Select Board Chair Dottie Fulgenetti.
Thank you, Corey, and thank you to all of our veterans that invite the Select Board to participate in this every year. Every year, Memorial Day means something different to me. It's the one day a year that we do get together specifically to remember those that lost their lives for our freedom. And it makes me so happy to see people out here that in the community continue to support that. And to be able to hear and listen to the stories that are shared with us by the people that we're honoring today, I can't imagine how difficult that is for you to come up and share that with us. And I just want to say on behalf of the Select Board and the people here today that we really do appreciate that. In 2017, when my son enlisted in the Navy, Memorial Day meant something very different to me that year. And in 2020, when my father passed away, and he was a naval veteran, it meant something different. This year, as some of the people before us said, our country is in a crisis, and our globe is in a crisis. And I think that the best way that we can honor people that served for us all of these years is to do our part, to stand up for some of those principles of equity, liberty, justice, freedom. And we can do that in our own little way, in our own little corner of Easton. And we can be models to show other people how to do that in other faraway places as well. So I just want to say again, we thank you to those who've lost their lives, for those who have suffered and are here with us today, and bless those that are continuing to serve us so that we can be home of the brave and live in freedom. Thank you.
Thank you, Dottie. That was wonderful. Thank you all for being here with us today to honor yet another Memorial Day in Easton. I'd like to thank ECAT for being here to film and broadcast the ceremony. For those who could not make it here in person, they can watch at a later date. I'd like to thank Easton DPW, police, fire, scouts, VFW, Legion, everybody. All of your service makes this possible. This is not something that I do alone or that any of us do alone. We all do it together as a community. So I appreciate your contributions in putting this day together. And in closing, I just want you to know, if you have anyone that you know, veteran or not, if they're in need, please refer them to my office. Our staff has the capability to assist any Easton resident with any situations they are faced with. As Commander Shaw had mentioned, please join us at the VFW for coffee and refreshments at 61 Rockland Street. This concludes the Town of Easton's 2022 Memorial Day ceremony.